Welcome, Colleen Morrone, President and CEO of Goodwill of Delaware and Delaware County. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you, Sharon. It's great to be here.
And for those who did not have an opportunity to read about your centennial in the State Chamber of Commerce magazine, I thought we could hit on some of the points that the article made. My gosh, what a large and, I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, multiple focuses, and this is not your father's Goodwill. And many people may still think of Goodwill as, a premier recycling center, but there's so much more to the organization, and really jobs development seems to be at the core. Yes?
Absolutely. We jokingly say, and I'm hoping that in the next 100 years when we talk about Goodwill, that we're not jokingly saying it anymore, that we're the best kept secret. Our mission is putting people to work, helping people to connect to jobs, getting them employment, getting them the skills that they need to get a job, to continue advancing in a job, and to stay employed. And most people, when they think of Goodwill, they think of our retail business that helps support the organization financially. They think of donating to Goodwill, or they think of shopping to Goodwill. And that is certainly the foundation and the core of where we all begin. But it's just one little part of what Goodwill does.
Well, is it possible to, do a little backstory quickly so we don't take time from talking about jobs creation?
Sure.
100 years.
Yeah, 100 years ago in Delaware, a group of individuals got together in the city of Wilmington at the old Asbury United Methodist Church that still stands today in Wilmington, and formed Goodwill of Delaware out of the Methodist Church. We succeeded from the Methodist Church probably in the mid-1990s and dissolved the relationships with a religious affiliation. Still founded on the same premise of taking items from the community, reselling them, and generating funds that help put people to work. Okay. So we still do that today in the businesses that we run in our retail, what we call our donated goods model, our staffing service, our janitorial business, and our recycling business.
And I think that's, mind-boggling for most people to know that you have all of these multiple services. Let's then focus on job training for a moment and the services you offer. And then I want to talk about what I think is phenomenal, talking about coming up with ways and means to recycle unusable goods and create new work, new products out of that. That's fascinating. But first, talk about who you're serving, some of the people, and some of the services you offer, if you would.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the thing about Goodwill is that our services are available to anyone who has a barrier to finding a job, whether that be a long-term barrier in connecting to work or maintaining work, whether it be a disability, whether it be somebody returning into the workforce after incarceration, a myriad of individuals and backgrounds that individuals are coming to Goodwill to seek assistance in helping them obtain and keep employment.
Sure.
Some of the services that we operate, one of the ones that we've operated for a number of years now is Stand By Me. And actually, I think Stand By Me is getting ready to celebrate their 15-year anniversary in the near future. It's a coaching model that helps individuals develop their finances and get them in order. But what we've found in the Goodwill connection, that a lot of times getting your finances in order has to do with getting a job,
Sure.
and keeping that job. And then you can, help to reduce your bills and find transportation and childcare and housing.
So, Colleen, if I may interrupt just for a second, we're talking about men, women. Is there a particular age group? Do you have people re-entering the workforce?
No, we're talking all ages. Just recently, in the last 10 years, we started really reaching out to youth And we're doing a lot of programs with some of the school districts in Delaware.
Wow.
Working with individuals with disabilities, students with disabilities who may be aging out of the school system that need to develop the connection to the workforce. So we've worked with multiple school districts throughout the state in providing opportunities for students to get work experience. So a lot of times, some of their first paycheck of their lifetime is coming from Goodwill, which is fantastic. You know, I try to remember my first job, and I think I was paid cash for wiping out pizza trays at New England Pizza down in Newark, Delaware, way back in the day.
I love New England pizza when I went to college.
I was the one in the back, the kid who was wiping out, you know, those pizza pans in New England Pizza back in the day. But you remember back, and I remember so vibrantly that first job. And what we want is, you know, youth in Delaware and Delaware County, Pennsylvania, to remember back on their first paycheck. You know, what were they doing? How did it change their life? You know, what little snippet did they take from that experience that carried through in their lives 40 years later?
Absolutely. And where does most of the training happen? Is it in your Lee Boulevard? That seems to be a very large facility there.
Yes.
All of your facilities where?
Yeah, you know, it's very integrated into just about every facility that we have. We have a job resource center here at our Wilmington location on Lee Boulevard. We have another one in Upper Darby, Delaware County. And we also have job training sites down in Dover and then one in Bridgeville, Delaware. And all of our retail locations, all of our janitorial sites, you know, a lot of the placements that our temporary staffing individuals are working are all job sites. So, you know, the thing that I love that Goodwill has transitioned to over the last 25 years is fully integrating the workforce training in the workforce.
Wow. So this little interview series began as an opportunity to keep people connected during quarantine, during COVID. Tell me, how has the pandemic affected your work?
So Sharon, I've watched all of your videos. They've been great. And a lot of times it was just helpful to see what other businesses were going through, how they were planning, and to just hear, you know, have that conversation in a very casual setting. We experienced everything that you could imagine through COVID, from, you know, closing our retail stores in, you know, probably a 7-day time frame that I would have never guessed. If you would have told me we would have closed all of our retail stores for anything, you know, I would have been like, that's not going to happen. To really stepping up and helping out some of the most impacted services throughout the state. Mm-hmm. So, you know, our retail stores closed, but people still donated. And, you know, we thank them for their donations. We had more donations during that period that you can imagine. But our janitorial services stepped up. We were doing deep cleaning services. We were doing extra cleaning services in facilities to help prepare sites where people were working and helping to get people back to work as quickly as possible. And our staffing services really kicked in. We received a call very soon after the closures from the Department of Labor. And, you know, they were faced with those astronomical claims that were coming in for unemployment. And our staff worked with the Department of Labor closely in helping to develop a training program to get people developed in the skills on how to answer these calls and how to process the claims, to filling the positions that were needed to handle the abundance of calls. And then we transitioned into working with Newcastle County in providing staffing for the COVID testing sites throughout Newcastle County throughout, you know, the last 8 to 10 months.
That has been quite an operation. I think Matt Meyer and his team are taking over the world. You know?
They have done a great job. And, really, you know, what a relief to so many people who needed somewhere to go when, you know, they needed to understand if they, you know, had COVID or, whether or not they were just not feeling well. I know so many people that traveled through that system, and just, it was such a relief to be able to have somewhere to go.
Well, I have one more question, but the big takeaway here is jobs, 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 training, not only for people who may have some sort of a barrier or disability, but for people entering the workforce maybe for the first time, yes?
Absolutely. And we've really been changing our focus and trying to gear a lot of the training that we're doing towards digital skills, because the work of tomorrow in the workforce is going to all be centered around the need for some level of digital skills. So how do we identify at what level somebody's digital skills are and help move through the continuum to develop those skills so they can provide the labor needed in the jobs that are coming for the future?
Of course, as I say to my kids and grandkids, God help us all. I hope people remember how to speak and make eye contact,
Right.
This is terrific. We could go on forever. I am very intrigued with something I read in the article about your work to transform unusable donations into usable materials. I'm sure you have a problem and have had one over the years with people not only bringing decent household items and clothing, but unusable things. Tell us about it.
Yes. So as you can imagine, we get a lot of items donated to us. A lot of them are usable and reused. Textiles are probably 99% of those textiles are being transitioned into some use, either at Goodwill or through a recycling process.
Sure.
Other items, we're trying to figure out how we keep them out of the landfill. Our first opportunity is to try to sell them in our retail locations and to generate revenue to support the mission of Goodwill. But then how do we take those items that individuals have given us and keep them out of going into a landfill? So we've been doing a lot of different things, trying to work with some creative reuse of items. We've worked with the University of Delaware and their fashion apparel center in creating opportunities for people to weave products into to new garments. They've done felting. They did some great sessions down at our Newark location on how to reuse textiles. But we're also looking on how to reuse plastics, how to reuse glass, how to reuse ceramics and wood that tend to be donated that don't have as much of a recycling component to them. So it's one of our initiatives of the future as we look to the next 100 years of Goodwill. How do we provide that opportunity accelerator in jobs for the community? And then how do we also take all of these items that people are donating to Goodwill and make sure that they're being reused and or recycled so that we're having a positive impact on our environment?
Wow, Colleen Morrone, you're a force. You and Goodwill of Delaware and Delaware County. So much more to learn. Will you come back and talk some more?
We'd love to come back and talk some more. It's great to focus on the past 100 years of Goodwill, but we're really gearing up our team and our staff to talk about the next 100 years for Goodwill. So we'd love to do that. May not be me in 100 years, but maybe you'll have me back sooner.
It definitely won't be me in 100 years. But thank you so much. And we will try to get this out to as many eyes as we can. And again, to you and your colleagues, best wishes. Thanks so much for your time. And you are now 100% open, COVID?
We are 100% open. We have COVID safety procedures in all of our locations. We actually opened up all of our locations starting in June. We had some reduced capacity in all of our locations to meet the state guidelines. And we continue to meet those guidelines and make sure that we're providing our team, our employees, as well as our customers and donors with a safe place to shop and donate.
Colleen Morrone, thank you so much. And
thank you, Sharon.
Hope to speak with you soon.
Thank you.
All righty. Take care.
Take care.